Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host Khalid. But today is the 20th of November 2024 and these are the stories that we will be highlighting in the course of the show. We will begin, ladies and gentlemen, with the fight against terrorism that Pakistan has been waging since the last couple of years, but since the last few months, rather since the last year and more, we've been seeing more and more such terrorist elements emanating from Afghanistan and the Afghan borders with the backing of certain other regional players and creating havoc in two particular provinces, and that is Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Balochistan. There was an PICSS committee meeting that was recently held in which a resolve was made by all the stakeholders that we will do the needful to thwart all such elements. We'll be also highlighting the latest incidents that have happened as far as terrorism is concerned, and specifically, of course, what has happened, which has led to the martyrdom of 12 of our Jawans. The fact also remains that every 10 days or so we hear of one such incident happening. Even in the month of November we've had so many incidents happening. What is the modus operandi of such terrorist outfits and what needs to be done to thwart them through kinetic and non-kinetic measures? This is what we will discuss in our first segment. Our second story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns the smog and of course the situation that is now easing slowly and steadily across Punjab, and of course there was a press brief also that was given by Maryam Aurangzeb Sahaba this afternoon to highlight the different measures that the Punjab government is also taking in this regard. The schools are also opening in the 36 districts of Punjab. Activities have begun from today, but of course there are certain measures that have been also taken in parallel so as to take precautionary measures to avert further diseases within the students or the young pupils. This and more will be discussed in our second segment. We'll then be talking about the World Children's Day that is being observed across the world, including in Pakistan. The theme this year is Listen to the Future, Stand Up for the Children's Rights. And finally, we will be talking about the death anniversary of legendary poet Faiz Ahmed Faiz Sahab, whose 40th death anniversary is being observed today. A man of many colors, a man who has written so much, a man who has been awarded the world over, including the Lenin Prize, for his achievements in his poetry, in his works, in his literary achievements. We will be talking about his life a little bit at the end of the show. Let's begin with today's segments, and we will of course talk about terrorism emanating from Afghanistan, and of course the PICSS committee meeting that was held as well, with the Chief of the Army Staff and the Chief Ministers as well as our Prime Minister attending, and the different resolves that have been taken there, the terrorist incidents that have been happening. We've been joined by two guests. Let me introduce them to you one by one. In the studios we've been joined by Abdullah Khan Sahab. He is the Managing Director of PICSS. He's right here with us in the studios. Abdullah Sahab, pleasure to have you. And of course online we've been joined by Brigadier Rashid Wali Janjua Sahab, who is a defense analyst. Brigadier Sahab, thank you very much to have joined us as well. So let's begin without further ado. Abdullah Sahab, 6 khawarij have been killed at Malkhail area of Bannu district. Yesterday, khawarij attempted to attack a joint checkpost in the general area of Malkhail in Bannu district. And of course, this was thwarted, but as a result, this led in the shahadat of 12 brave sons of the soil that include 10 soldiers of the security forces and 2 soldiers of the FC. Not the first time that it's happened, and we see a lot of incidents like these that have been happening in the last few weeks. I have asked this to you before as well, but I'd like to reiterate the same question. Why is an uptick in such activities since the last few months?
Thank you. It's an issue that we are facing on daily basis. So the question is obvious that on daily basis we ask ourselves and each other what is the reasons. The main reasons and the main solution of this uptick in terrorism is not inside Pakistan. So today I would like to say that enough is enough. The Pakistan should now respond at the epicenters of terrorism who are financing this terrorism from across the border, and I will not name, but I will just hint that the border on eastern side, and there are big powers as well who are actually financing, supporting, giving all kind of support to these terrorists. So within the land, our soldiers are sacrificing on daily basis, and they are fighting. What they could do, they are doing, but the result is not, we are not achieving that kind of a result, and that result will only come then when our befitting response will be seen visibly and felt at the epicenter of terrorism of those who sent Kulbhushan Yadav, and those who are behind whole this game, who are financing this terrorism, and those big powers who are actually twisting our arms, and one of our friendly country whose soil is being used for financing this terrorism in Balochistan especially, and obviously from Afghanistan as well, and those friendly countries should also mind their business, that their soil is being used against us. I will not name because this is an official channel, but those countries who are recently banning Pakistanis from visas, but they are allowing adversaries of Pakistan on their soil, and their soil is being used for terror financing day in and day out. So today I would speak a bit loudly that Pakistan should respond not inside but outside.
All right. Janjua sahab, what should be the Pakistan's response now in the wake of a continuity of incidents that have been happening from across the border, and such incidents that of course are more or less concentrated in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and Balochistan? What kinetic and non-kinetic measures are you looking at?
There should be full political ownership of these policies, and these policies need to be consistent. We need to put our very best in the vanguard of these counter-terror and counter-insurgency operations, and we got to fully resource and equip our boys and ramp up our intelligence gathering and preemptive capability, so that before such attacks come, we actually preempt those. And we know that we have to deploy our troops in the shape of small posts to hold the territory, because the merged districts unfortunately do not have any administrative presence. It doesn't have any police presence, and not for want of will perhaps, but for want of capacity. Police cannot take on TTP, so army willy-nilly has to take in the frontier corps. Now those assets are deployed in the shape of posts which are protecting the areas, but those posts and their location and their on-spot resistance capacity and their protective arrangements need to be looked at. Then we need to have a look at our intelligence gathering apparatus. We need to ensure that the enemy's ability to collect and launch these attacks is completely destabilized right at the stage of it's getting mobilized. We also need to take up these matters with Afghan interim government, and a time has come that we make a very...
Interrupt you, Janjua sahab. Let me just interrupt you here. You say we need to take this up with the Afghan interim government. We've taken it many times with the Afghan interim government, but there is dead silence when it comes to some kind of a response. In fact, what they say is this is Pakistan's internal matter, which in fact it isn't. What should we do?
We need to engage with them in with value proposition. That look, if you can't do it, then allow us to do it, because if you are incapable of stabilizing Afghanistan, let us help you get stabilized. So as a country that needs to protect its territory, Pakistan cannot remain oblivious to the steady stream of attacks emanating out of Afghanistan. There are secure bases, and if for whatever reason Afghan interim government is incapable of reining in these non-state actors, Pakistan should offer its all options that if you wish, we can collaborate in the shape of joint operations. If you wish, we can carry out intelligence-based operations with you. And there are so many factions. In fact, there are wheels within wheels inside Afghanistan. There is a Kandhari group, there is a Kabul group, there are Haqqanis, there are Mullah Hibtullah and his adherents. So these multiple poles have to be engaged now. I believe those should be engaged, even if we have to speak to the Haqqanis that look, you need to be part of the solution, not the part of the problem. And the civil and military components, both should be involved into that. The lead role perhaps could be given to the Foreign Office, and obviously with the full participation of the intelligence and the military component. These engagement channels should be opened, options should be presented, and that strategic construct has to be looked at, that we need to stop this flow of terrorism from across the border, because if we keep protecting ourselves, we'll be easy targets inside, as there would be a steady stream of terrorists. And then we know that who is funding them. India is fully involved, RA is doing that, and they wish to keep Pakistan destabilized. And if they are doing in a region which is already destabilized for want of Afghan interim government's capacity to stabilize Afghanistan, then we need to step in. And that's the kind of exterior maneuver that we need to conduct in order to protect our people and to ensure that there are no secure bases from there terrorism emanates and strikes Pakistan. And while inside, we need to now, I think, fully resource our boys who are there on the forefront, offering daily sacrifices. I think this nation owes to such brave men, and those stones should be unturned in equipping them well. Give them the best equipment, give them, because they are up against a foe which has them, equipment.
I agree with you on that, but there needs to be a constructive national cohesive resolve. Abdullah Khan Sahab, the army chief and of course our prime minister and the other chief ministers were there at the apex committee meeting regarding the security situation that was discussed in detail during this. And during that, our chief of the army Sahab says that every Pakistani is a soldier in the war on terror, whether he wears a uniform or he does not wear a uniform. Now, Janjua Sahab talks about a strategic construct. The chief of the army staff says the constitution of Pakistan is paramount to us. The constitution imposes on us the responsibility of Pakistan's internal and external security, and whosoever obstructs Pakistan's security and prevents us from doing our job will have to face the consequences. Do you feel, A, that the dealing with such a menace needs a constructive, cohesive, uniform response from all stakeholders? B, do you feel, you've hinted at some of the mechanism that needs to be put into place, do you feel now is the time to be more stringent in our methodology?
Look, we should look back in the history. Our successes against terrorism in Swat, North Waziristan, South Waziristan, Bajod, Moman, all those areas which we cleared in the past. At that time, there was political consensus in the country, and this is what reflected in the apex committee as well, that across the political divide, political spectrum, there should be a single voice against terrorism. So that is something which is missing in Pakistan. Political stability is required here. When APS had happened, there was a dharna in Islamabad, yes. And that was a national tragedy. Now what is going on is also a national tragedy. So all the sides should, I think, do something to build that consensus which is required to fight this, and that reflected, I think, in the meeting. So I think now we may see some reconciliation process, some rapprochement from both sides. We may see something, but unfortunately what some political elements try to actually exploit that situation to their political interest, which is very unfortunate. I think this is a national tragedy, and we should actually step back just for the national cause, because it is Pakistan. If Pakistan is there, all our interests are there. If God forbid Pakistan is damaged, so what are we for?
Exactly, so because we are Pakistanis, we belong to Pakistan. It is our duty, our responsibility towards Pakistan, to give it our all.
And that political consensus is required as far as every Pakistani. Obviously, all the Pakistanis are not only just soldiers, but all the Pakistanis are sacrificing their lives as well. Thousands of Pakistanis, and more than the security forces, these are the civilians of Pakistan, non-combatants who laid their lives during this cycle of terrorism during last 24 years. So obviously, we all are affected by this terrorist wave, and we are all soldiers, regardless we call ourselves soldiers or not, but we are, and we always did it in 1965 and whenever.
And we'll inshallah do it again. We will inshallah do it again. Janjua Saab, the Prime Minister chaired the meeting of the Federal Apex Committee today that was attended by the Federal Cabinet, the Chief of the Army Staff and senior government officials as well as provincial chief ministers. The agenda was on reinvigorating Pakistan's counter-terrorism campaign. There was a briefing that was given regarding the general law and order situation, actions against efforts to stoke subnationalism, religious extremism, tackling illegal spectrum and crime, terror nexus and subversion and disinformation campaigns, and of course other issues regarding these as well. I'd come back to counterterrorism. How important do you feel is it for Pakistan to reinvigorate its counter-terrorism strategy or campaign as was highlighted today?
I think the resolve is very clear, and the Apex Committee was very explicit in its communique. Earlier on also during communique at Islamabad, the Margala dialogue organized by Islamabad Policy Research Institute, Army Chief was very clear. He said that TTP and non-state actors are acting as a magnet for all the other terrorist entities. And this menace is not only going to impact Pakistan and Afghanistan, but the whole world. So I believe that now time has come that we should ratchet up our counter-terrorism response. There was a mention of reinvigoration of NACTA. I believe NACTA has been reinvigorated in the past as well, but that's a policy-making body essentially. What we need to really reinvigorate are the actual field arms, and there was a mention of that as well, because there should be provincial Apex committees and the district coordination committees which should look at all the kinetic and non-kinetic responses, and there would be threat identification and intelligence fusion centers. Those are very, very essential, both at national level as well as the provincial levels, where the common operating picture and the common threat assessment is shared with all the stakeholders. So all those decisions at the policy plan have been taken, but now it is to be seen that whether those are implemented with the same vigor, which I'm sure they would be. But I would also like to say that we need to now show some progress on ground by way of better organization, a consistent policy, because these policies in dribs and drabs would not function. We need a consistency. We need the best, military leadership out in the front, taking on the brunt of the terrorism. And once and for all, we need to use the whole weight of our effort to sanitize these areas, and we have done it in the past. You see, once we won from 2009 to 10, and both in Balochistan as well as South Waziristan and Swat, the whole areas were sanitized. The tribes, they were reassured. People who suffered, obviously displacements and all, they came back. But at the same time, there were elements that still were speaking the language of the enemies of the state, like people like Ali Wazir. I mean, PTM was used as, despite its protestations of different ideology, it was speaking the language of the TTP. And Ali Wazir, we know, he was, his entire family was massacred by Taliban, because there were accusations against him of being a collaborator with a foreign power. But the same gentleman comes and he is given access, is facilitated, and then he starts speaking in the language which is against the state of Pakistan. So we need to retain and wrest back the confidence of the state, those elements who are ready to shed bloods with you. The tribes are with you. We need to regain their confidence, which was a bit shattered because of the aborted reconciliation attempt, which allowed regaining of space to the TTP. Now, that's on a non-kinetic front, and we need to now ensure that there's a regional initiative also. We know that there was a quadrilateral forum.
Very important when you talk of the regional initiative, that is very important, but I'll go to my guests in the studios to talk about that. Thank you very much. In the meantime, Brigadier Janjua Sahab to have joined us online to discuss terrorism in Pakistan and the recent Apex Committee meeting and its resolve. Coming to you, when you come to regional resolve, you know, I'd reiterate what our Prime Minister said. He talks about the importance of a sustained coordinated effort to protect Pakistan's sovereignty, ensure the safety of citizens and reinforce economic and social stability. Can other countries in the region who also desire the same for their citizens work together to evolve a joint counter-terrorism strategy in order to thwart these attempts?
Pakistan has a standpoint that this terrorism is not just our issue, it is not just regional issue, it is actually global issue. All these militants, they are linked together. TTP is linked with Al-Qaeda is global ambitions, and you know, so there are regional groups who were in the past part and parcel of TTP. Karachi attack, that was done by the Uzbek militants. Of IMU and TTP did it together, and there are many other ETIM, Turkestan Islamic Party had links with TTP. So that is a magnet, as the army chief has highlighted. So the most important country is China. I think we in the past jointly did counter-terrorism exercises and operations with America when there was war on terror going on in Afghanistan. American soldiers were here, Jacobabad Air Base, Dalbandi, Shamsi Air Base, and all these bases were with them because there was a common goal. Now there is a common goal here as well. So I think we need to bring Chinese in, and because this is not just our issue. The Chinese are also affected. CPEC is affected, and not just CPEC. It is the whole BRI which will be affected, because this epicenter Afghanistan destabilizing, presence of more than 24 militant groups having international and regional ambitions. So the Chinese have a role to play, not just advisory, but I think there should be operational role as well inside Pakistan. There we should not mind that, and that is not a sovereignty issue. We jointly did with the United States. We can do it with China as well. I think that should be our approach as well. As I said, that our response should be outside, that the Brigadier also highlighted, but we can also bring together those who are suffering with us, and the China is the main victim of this the wave of terrorism alongside Pakistan.
Okay, last question, and that concerns Balochistan. The participants at the Apex Committee approved a comprehensive military operation against all the terrorist organizations that operate in Balochistan, BLA, BLF, BRAS, who are targeting civilians and foreign nationals. Of course, you know who I'm talking about. But at the same time, tribal elders and scholars have also expressed their support for revival of peace in Balochistan. So there is a desire by the locals in Balochistan also for peace in the region. Do you feel that these scholars, these elders, tribal elders, could also play a role in highlighting and pinpointing where these terrorist elements are, and then our armed forces can also, search out and thwart such activities or such elements as I've highlighted, BLA, BLF, BRAS as well, from further conducting such nefarious activities?
Balochistan's dynamics is different from KP, and during last 5 years, the militancy or terrorism in Balochistan evolved to a level where they are not anymore hiding in the mountains, and only the tribals have a role. Now the middle class, well educated youth, and merged into the civilian population living in urban centers like Karachi, Quetta, and big cities. Even in Islamabad, many were arrested. So in Balochistan, the operation will be intelligence based operation. It will not be an area clearing operation, because terrorists luckily are having no territory under their control in Balochistan or any part of the country for that matter. So that will be an intelligence based operation, but coupled with a lot of other things, including governance issue, which the army chief has highlighted, because in Balochistan the governance is also a major issue, and also addressing the social issues, socio-economic issues, and youth engagement. So I think a comprehensive vision, Azm-e-Istehkam, going to unleash in Balochistan very soon, and that will have I think a very profound impact on the situation in coming months.
Inshallah, we really hope so. Thank you very much, Abdullah Khan, Managing Director of PICSS, to have joined us, to have come all the way to the studios, and we are always grateful for your input and your point of view as far as such important incidents and issues are concerned. Let's come to our second topic, and that concerns smog in Punjab, and of course the smog that has eased in Punjab and the education institutions that have opened up in many of the states in Punjab. But the fact is that all this opening up comes with certain restrictive measures as well that are in point. Abid Omar, founder Pakistan Air Quality Initiative, joins us online. Abid, thank you very much to have joined us. Long time no see, but nevertheless better late than never. Abid, academic activities along 35 districts of Punjab have been restored since this morning. The education institutions have opened up, but of course there are certain restrictions as well as the timings, as well as the putting up the masks and other such measures are concerned, because the AQI of course has improved and continues to improve as well. How do you view this betterment of the situation? Is it going to sustain itself, or do you feel there's going to be a high and low in the coming days as well?
The lockdown has had a tremendous impact and a very positive step by the provincial government to lock down Lahore and Multan specifically. And of course, the AQI has gone down to what we can consider acceptable limits as far as Lahore and Punjab goes, even though even that was still between 200 and 300. But we are already seeing, now that the lockdown has eased up, that the AQI levels have started to slowly rise up, and they will continue rising over the next week. So this raises the question that are the measures that we are currently taking, are they really sufficient to address the smog crisis, or do we have to see lockdowns happening over and over again?
Do you feel that such protocols are needed in the coming days as well? Because we see the different kinds of diseases that have, become rampant amongst the public because of the increased smog, heart diseases case, asthma patients, eye-related ailments. What, in your point of view, needs to be as the base for protocols in regions such as Punjab in the coming days and weeks as well?
These diseases are only the tip of the iceberg, right? Like, we know that the longer term effects of air pollution are much greater than this temporary eye irritation or asthma that you're getting. We're talking about a loss in life expectancy of 7 years for residents of Lahore. And that number is probably going to be adjusted to be even higher, given the extreme level of pollution we have seen, especially over the last 2 weeks. So the measures that have been taken till date, whether it is the lockdown or other activities like reducing the movement of commercial vehicles and reducing the operation of various industries and brick kilns, and also putting a check on crop residue burning, that is similarly the tip of the iceberg. There needs to be some major rethought about these policies going forward. For the short term, we are okay. We're not so bad. But this is not going to solve our problem.
Abid, let me just pinpoint some of the measures that have been taken. Kilns operating without zigzag technology have been demolished. Industrial units have been sealed that were not operating as per the procedures. The crackdown on violators of environmental laws has been intensified. 12 points have been sealed for violating environmental laws. Vehicles with malfunctioning engines and excessive emissions are being targeted excessively. Heavy transport is banned at entry points, important entry points. Water sprinkling on roads, monitoring of sand and material transport vehicles is going on. And of course, such precautionary measures such as wearing of masks, carpooling, possible closure of schools that could be considered if the situation worsens are also on the agenda. What, in your point of view, needs to be done more? Are these good enough measures, do you feel?
For the short term, these are perhaps the only measures that are practical to implement. Of course, one can be much more stringent. The ban on operation of brick kilns should go beyond zigzag kilns to all brick kilns. There should be no tolerance for industries that are burning rubber and plastic waste as to run their boilers or their furnaces. So these checks need to be enforced on a much, much larger level. For example, yesterday there were 2001 FIRs cut for various reasons related to the pollution that they're creating, whether again it's these industries or cars. But the question is that enough? How much are we going to continue? If you do 2,000 fines every day, you maybe have to do 10,000 or 50,000 fines every single day to be effective. So for the longer term, a bigger rethought of the system is needed. The environmental protection departments already have the authority to put checks on industry. Similarly, the transport ministry has the authority to check the emissions of vehicles. There is the VIC system, the vehicle inspection system that is in place for commercial vehicles. So the question is, those systems are not new from today. Those have been existing for a very, very long time. What is the missing link that those are not effective and functional throughout the year? Why is not the case where every single vehicle in Lahore and in Punjab is going through the system and continues to be the status where we have to wait till we see the black smoke when it is already too late, when the AQI is already reaching 500 and 1,000 and even 2,500. At that step, we're too late. So longer term, we need a rethink.
You know, Maryam Aurangzeb, who's a senior provincial minister of Punjab, also had a media briefing today in which she also talked about the measures that the government is taking. But she also appealed to industrialists and manufacturers to adopt environmentally friendly practices. She also talked about the role that the media has to play in educating people and spreading awareness. Do you feel the measures on industrialists and manufacturers also need to be more strictly adapted? Maybe a different line of view regarding them should be implemented in the coming days for, as you said, the right implementation in the long term. And secondly, do you feel that the media also plays a very important part, like we are doing right now talking to you, in highlighting and educating the people, because a lot of people still do not understand what smog is, how important is it to get rid of smog, and how important it is to be environmentally friendly in order to protect your future generations and yourself as well.
So, absolutely. These statements that are being put out by Maryam Aurangzeb and Maryam Nawaz are correct, that within the ambit of the law, that we have to enforce what is there, whether it's calling out the industry to put a check on their emissions and have a zero tolerance policy around this. But where is the role of the authorities in enforcing their law? That is very much so lacking, because to suddenly wake up and cut 2,000 FIRs is not enough. This is something that needs to be done year round. And at the same time, we have to check that are our emissions regulations up to the mark as per the pollution levels we see in Lahore. So we do not see the conversation going. And of course, that's where the media also has a big role, right? Like, are we putting the right statements out in the media? Are we talking to the right people, the experts, the scientists, the academics, who can give the right advice? So far, it feels as if the advice that the government is listening to is coming from the what I like to call drawing room discussions, where people discuss their opinions about what needs to be done, which is, for example, the case with the zigzag kilns. The media has a big role by, of course, talking to myself and many other experts in Pakistan to bring those things to light. But beyond what the government should do, it is also a question of what ordinary citizens want and demand.
They need to be also informed and educated as to the bad effects of smog, all the bad effects of environmental pollution. Because a lot of people that I've talked to, Abid, and I'm sure you must have talked to a lot of people as well, do not really understand that.
It's a very difficult thing to understand, right? Because it's an invisible problem. Even now, so many people think that this is fog and not smog, and there's a whole confusion about, what are we seeing? It's a beautiful time of the year in Lahore with all these foggy days, but it's how do you get the message across that this is dangerous, and at the same time, what precautions can individuals and families take? People have to step out and go to their workplaces. Even if the government is shutting schools, most children cannot afford to be in an environment where there are air purifiers running and they're in a protected environment. They're still being exposed to that air. So, some of the messages that we talk about are important. Is that yes, limit your activities outdoors if you can afford to, and especially for children, the elderly and pregnant ladies, please stay at home and don't go running around, don't go playing outside on the streets. The more air you're taking in, the more danger you're causing for yourself. And those stories are not adequately being told because, you can see it on one hand from the number of
But that is true. But
patients
the
going
fact
to
is,
the
Abid, let me
hospitals.
let me just interrupt you. I feel that people need to be educated the entire year through. Even when the weather is excellent, favorable, environmentally friendly, we still need to tell everybody to take the necessary precautions for their cars, for their vehicles, for the way they look at other people. Tell the government whenever they see any vehicle that is obstructing the environmental laws or any industry that is doing so, so that there's a constant check and balance going on within the society, and that is what will lead to long-term measure being implemented properly. Thank you very much, Abid Umar, founder Pakistan Air Quality Initiative, to have joined us. It is always a pleasure to talk to you regarding environmental pollution and what needs to be done. Thank you very much again. Let's come to our next story, and that concerns the World's Children's Day that is being observed across the world, including in Pakistan. The theme this year, ladies and gentlemen, is Listen to the Future, Stand Up for the Children's Rights. The day, of course, serves as a call for action for the schools, for the communities and institutions to engage with, to support the children, to encourage them, and to encourage the world to actively listen to what are the hopes, the aspirations of the children are, what their vision for the future is. We need to take children more seriously, despite the fact that many societies do not take them. But the fact is that children are the harbingers of our future. They are the future generations, and they need to be brought up in an environment where their point of view is listened to as well, but also they need to be educated properly as well, so that their thought process is also constructive and moves towards not only building of a society but building of nations. We've had many important messages that have come on the occasion. Our Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif Saab also talks on this. He says that he reaffirms Pakistan's unwavering commitment to the rights, the well-being and the development of our children, who are the architects of our future and the most valuable asset of our nation. We've been joined by Afshan Tehseen. She is the CEO of Human Capital Pakistan. Afshan, thank you very much to have joined us. Afshan, today is of course a very important day regarding children. Being the World Children's Day, and of course all the body of work that you've done for children's rights, what is the most important thing that needs to be done across the world when it comes to the children of the world?
Sorry, there was some voice disruption. Can you kindly repeat?
Yes. Let me repeat the question. I was just saying, what is the most important thing or things that need to be done? What is the responsibility of the world vis-a-vis the children on this day? What are the pledges that need to be taken?
Yeah, the most important thing for children is that children should be in all respects given all the due care to be nurtured, to be protected, to be mentally, physically, emotionally strong, to be positive, to have an enabling environment so that they can contribute very positively in society when they are children, when they become adolescents, and when they become adults in society.
You know, the Secretary General of the United Nations talks about the different challenges that children across the world are facing, whether it be in the forms of poverty, whether it be conflict, whether it be disasters that are killing and maiming children. Isn't this a responsibility of all nations to have a collective resolve to help the future generations to make them survive in the right environment?
Definitely. within the
Maybe some kind of a technical issue. We can't hear you properly. I'll just reiterate what the Secretary General of the United Nations had to say today, and he said that today is a moment to recognize the enormous challenges that the children face in our deeply divided, tumultuous and often violent world. He says it is shocking that in the 21st century any child still goes hungry, uneducated or without even the most basic health. He also said that it is a stain on humanity's conscience when children's lives are caught in the grinding wheels of poverty or upended by disasters or conflicts, as we are seeing the world over, that are killing and maiming them. He talked about the League of Nations that adopted the Declaration on the Rights of the Child around 100 years back, the foundation of the Convention on the Rights of the Child, the most widely ratified human rights treaty in history. This year's theme also, as he ably said, and I completely agree with that we must listen to children as they fight for their rights and for humanity's future. Every child has the right to live in peace, in health, in safety, today and every day. This should be the resolve of every nation across the world, which unfortunately we don't see in some of the countries where conflict is going on. Let's protect and support the children as they meaningfully contribute to make our world a better, a brighter and a more peaceful place for all the people. Our Prime Minister also, when he talked about the importance of today's day, he said the day serves as a reminder of our collective responsibility to protect and fulfill the rights of every child without discrimination and ensure that every child, regardless of their circumstances, has access to quality education, health care and a safe, nurturing environment. He said it is our duty to provide them with facilities and opportunities that they need to achieve their full potential and contribute positively to the society. I think this is something that should be ingrained in our society and also in the societies in the developed world and in those where conflicts are going on, that we need to also understand the role of the nations and societies when it comes to the children, and that is what needs to happen, that is what needs to be done. Afshan, when it comes to the different challenges, poverty, conflict, right to education that is being denied in so many countries across the world, shouldn't there be stronger, more rigid, methodologies implemented even in conflict-ridden areas to protect the children, which we really are not seeing in these areas?
Definitely, and there are United Nations standards, and all those measures need to be taken with United Nations has developed, and all the member countries are supposed to do it. So I think the children in disaster-prone areas, in war conflicts, in such areas need more attention, more support, and more, security, so that nations should come forward and all the respective members should be continuously, reinforcing this.
That is so true. Thank you very much, Afshan, to have joined us. There is a bit of a technical issues. That's why we can't, engage in our conversation, unfortunately, but maybe next time. I'll just end by what our Prime Minister said, that special efforts need to be made and are being made to enroll millions of out-of-school children through targeted campaigns, community outreach and incentives for families to send their children to school. And these are just some of the initiatives that the current government is also taking. I think any government in the world needs to do that, needs to take care of its children so that we protect the future of our nation. Let's come to our last story, ladies and gentlemen, that concerns an eminent point, an eminent name. Whenever we talk of Pakistan across the world, there's one name that comes to mind, and that in one of the big names that comes to mind, and that is Faiz Ahmed Faiz. Today is the 40th death anniversary of the legendary poet and writer, and this is being observed across Pakistan and also across many of the countries where he is admired, loved and adored to this day, where his works have been translated in all the different languages. Born in 1911 in Narowal, he earned worldwide recognition for his work that influenced, for his work which influenced Urdu literature across the world, and that is why his work was also translated in so many other languages, including Russian. He was awarded the Lenin Peace Prize by the Soviet Union in 1962, in fact, for the recognition of all his services. There is such a lot of body of work when it comes to Faiz Ahmed Faiz Saab, and all the messages that also are contained in it, and the way that he writes it, and the way that he has put forward his points of view through his poetry is remarkable, is unique, and will always live on through the generations. And of course, I need to applaud both the daughters, Salima Hashmi and Muniza Hashmi, who are continuing with his body of work and highlighting the important work that he has done over the decades. He passed away on this very day in 1984 and is buried in Lahore. With that, we come to an end of today's newsroom. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with new story segments that pertain to us here in Pakistan. Stay safe. Allah Hafiz.